All right, people, I believe we're live. Welcome to the Bad Slave Podcast, episode 5. Today, special guest, we've got Nikki Brooker. That is how you pronounce it, yeah? I pronounce
Yeah.
cool. And from anti-racist mums, the anti-racist mum, she's quite vocal and quite popular on TikTok and various platforms. So without me saying too much, how did you get into what you're doing and why?
How did I get into what I'm doing and why? Well, I got into what I'm doing. I got into what I'm doing because my daughter was racially abused, the short version.
Yeah,
And
you can tell the
the
long version if you want. We don't mind.
we might be here
Yeah,
till
yeah,
next
tell the
Christmas if
long
we do the
version.
long version.
The ones where names get called out and everything. That one.
Oh, well. Yeah, well, I've been a youth worker. Like, it wasn't like social justice was a new thing to me.
Yeah.
So I've been a youth worker and a campaigner since I was a teenager, since I was 14. So I've always been, yeah, like challenging the narrative and trying to give young people a voice. Like, I was the young person that spearheaded the campaign to create the UK Youth Parliament and
Okay.
spent a number of years, of my life setting that up. 9 years in total, I was involved with UKYP.
Yeah.
And then I went to Australia, spent a couple of years there, and
Mm.
fast forward, I suppose, and I have a child that's 10 or 11 at the time, and we're on holiday. I've got this group of friends. I live in Kent with a predominantly white group of female friends, and as we talk, I'm sure you're established why I prefer females over males. Male company, but yeah, those white women when children that we were on holiday with racially abused my daughter, the mother of those children got very defensive and couldn't understand what the problem was. Her boys behaved typically fragilely, as I have since learned is the like conditioned response that us as white people experience when called out on racist behavior. And then it kind of escalated to like I felt like I'd blown up my whole life because this group of friends that I'd had, some of whom I'd been friends with for like 15 years, and many of whom my daughter referred to, as auntie so and so. And I had a conversation with the rapper Amy True, and I was like, oh my God, I've blown up my life. How do I deal with this? Like, how can they not understand the impact of the racial abuse on my daughter long term, and like being in this, like, why won't they change? And she was like, Nikki, I think you need to go away and research like how little white women have done in terms of real feminism and advocacy for global majority people. And she said, then come back to me and tell me what you're going to do. And so then I did. I went away and I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts and YouTube videos and books. I read a lot of books. I read is it Nice Racism and White Fragility, and tried to just educate myself as much as possible and like I'd been in Australia and I'd been 20 years or nearly 20 years previous to that, and had a really positive experience where First Nations people had helped me to start the unlearning journey and understand my privilege of existing in a white body, and try and reconnect to some of that learning, I suppose, and because I'd spent in this time in this friendship group, I'm quite a hyper person, and I'd spent my whole life trying to fit into a box and be like approval from these people. But as you start to come out of these things, you see things from a different perspective. And so as I'm kind of finding myself and unlearning my racist conditioning, I ended up going back to Amy and said, I'm going to create this anti-racist mums movement. I want it, ultimately, we birth these, whether we're birthing girls or birthing boys, we birth people that end up in positions of power and look around us. We've got all these cisgender heterosexual white mutated female embryos set on destroying humanity and Mother Earth for ego, greed, and because they're emotionally constipated. And the buck has to stop with us, really, at some point. As white women, and we're everywhere as well, aren't we? In all different employment situations. So like we have to somebody has to disrupt this and has to, break this cycle of us being complicit in harm and not raising inclusive anti-racist children, not raising children with any kind of morality or values. And the longer I've been doing this, the more obviously I unlearn, and my opinions evolve and change, and I see different patterns emerging of what is happening around us. And
Yeah.
I really think that one of the biggest barriers to social change is us, is white women, is, we seem to block everything, any progress, because we literally raise these men that are going to be horrible, feral human beings that are going to abuse the biggest perpetrators of violence towards women and women and children are cis hetero white males. Like,
Yeah.
where we have to disrupt it, surely, don't we?
Yeah, I agree. Also, but at the same time, is there something we can put on the men? Because obviously the racist men as well.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely, yeah. And they're because they're so emotionally constipated. But that's why I think the parenting strategies have to change from, like,
yeah,
so we raise boys to actually be capable, because
yeah,
the ones we've got at the moment, let's face it, these white men, I just think we should start issuing these men on the NHS some ladders and some flags on wet, windy, rainy days, and let Mother Nature take them out. Because I
mm-hmm.
really don't think there's much point in it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
I
And
get
these
you. I
old
understand.
these
Yeah,
yeah, like, can't we just eliminate them? Like, they really
yeah,
serve no purpose. Menstrual
yeah.
blood is more use to humanity.
But do you think a lot of it is like sometimes the parents aren't even that aware of
I
some
think
of the views their children develop, because a lot of the times they can develop it from they can be brainwashed from YouTube videos, they can just in their environment and various people they interact with. But do you think it's due to the parents' indifference? So rather than they might come from a family where they've never heard anything racist being said, but at the same time there's not the conversation, probably never had the conversation either. So
But I think that is, this is the exceptionalism that white people live with. It's
yeah,
always
yeah,
not
yeah,
them. It's always, or we live
yeah,
with. It's always our friend. It's always we're in the good zone rather than the KKK zone.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
not it. And that's why I do my videos and various different bits of content that I create and the radio
yeah,
show that I do, to try and crack through to that. Like, we are all part of the system. If we
yeah,
don't
yeah,
change our actions,
yeah,
nothing will change. We have to consciously change
yeah,
and see through the programming of society, because everything around us is conditioning us to maintain the axis of evil: capitalism,
yeah,
patriarchy, and white supremacy. They are the axis of evil. And, like, whether it's media, music, everything, how we shop, everything is
mm,
being manipulated to prop up the axis of evil.
yeah, yeah. What did you notice when you so after you had your mixed race daughter, did you did you become more aware of racism, like subtle racism from people, and also racist attitudes of people around you?
So I was always quite aware and quite like, I would have considered myself to be, one of the good white people.
Yeah,
I do safeguarding for a job, and I do, I'm
mm-hmm.
aware of language and microaggressions, out on support, years of supporting Palestine, and that was who I thought my circle of friends were. Um, but there's something that's happened in this country over the last 10, 15 years, with the sowing the seed of calling for Brexit, has seen a ramp up of indoctrination and brainwashing at the same time as people's nervous systems have been compromised to
Mm-hmm.
overwhelm, where they've got to the point where they lack critical thinking skills.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
lack the ability to slow themselves down and say, why am I being told this? What
yeah,
purpose does it serve? And and therefore living in a part of the southeast of England, I have witnessed people that were quite decent, you know, open-minded, people that I would have worked with in youth situations and fully trusted them with a culturally diverse group of young people, to now being people that would throw a pen on the floor and shout, Nikki's going to get upset because I've thrown a black pen on the floor. So this is has been very subtle, and it's been, I think it's been a systematic thing that has been intentional by all of the players trying to push us further into fascism now.
Do you think that education system, or the state of the education system, has a part to play in it, like it just not being very good? So a lot of people, let's keep it real, a lot of people are leaving school, like they can read and write and stuff like that and basic things, yeah, but a lot of people are leaving school with like little to no intelligence, yeah. So do you think the education system plays a part in
100%? The education system's set up is exactly how it's designed, doesn't it? It's functioning perfectly. It is designed to create compliant citizens, people that are not going to question authority, people that are going to do exactly what they're told. A bit like your brand, Bad Slave, you know, they're going to be the good slaves. They're going to be the PAYE slaves. They're going to follow the you know, the trajectory that the neoliberal capitalists want, you know, consume.
But a lot of these people, a lot of the, especially nowadays, what we're seeing with the Tommy Robertson fans and the, you know, them sorts of people, the roundabout painters and stuff, they believe that they are being the rebels. So they believe that they are fighting against an oppressive force, and this is why they're doing it. And
it's a state of psychosis.
Yeah,
it's a state of psychosis.
Well, some of the things, because I've got certain people on my Facebook, yeah, right, they'll probably watch this, innit? And like, obviously, so these are people, these are grown adults as well, right? Now these people, right, they believe that they are under attack. They believe that as a white person in England, they are under attack for being white. Yeah. So what is your take on that? Because this has been, I've seen it said by quite a lot of people who will probably see this. Sorry?
I bet it's majority men. These little crybaby men, white
men. There is men, but there is some women going along with it as well. But yeah, you know,
people that lack accountability, that will be, because this is what I have a problem with. These little crybabies, they want to be the victims. They're the most. We, you know, as a population, those with my complexion are the most like privileged demographic, and then you take out women because the men oppress us because of patriarchy, and the most privileged and prioritized demographic on this planet are cisgender heterosexual white males who do not have any form of disability, and they are the biggest, most pathetic bunch of fragile narcissists on the planet. They are the ones perpetuating the most violence towards women and children. They are the ones propping up inequity. They're not doing anything to fight for women's equity in the workplaces. How are they? You know, we're 120 years behind men in terms of work, of pay. They're disgusting. They're absolutely the most vile humans on the planet. And if evolution sees them and their woe is me mentality wipe them out, doesn't that just prove the white supremacist Darwin's theory of evolution? They do not deserve to pass their genetics on if they cannot fix themselves and reflect, be accountable for your life. You have the easiest life of anyone, any demographic, and you want to be the victim. I really do think we need to normalize referring to them as mutated female embryos. I find it really difficult to comprehend that these people that, like they're so disrespectful to women, but they started life as a female embryo. And they were grown by a woman, and they want to behave like little spoilt toddlers in a supermarket in the sweet aisle.
Well, this is I was going to mention this about like see, on your videos, especially on TikTok, so. And you've now got rid of all the comments, which is a good idea.
Only on Facebook, I don't.
Oh, right, Facebook, fair enough.
Yeah, and I filter my comments on TikTok.
I've seen some mad comments myself, you know what I mean? I've seen some mad comments, like I don't want to say what the people were threatening to do on here. I'm not going to repeat it.
Oh yeah, I've had
And,
awful threats. I've had terrible threats.
and towards obviously women and children. Yeah. So
They're such hypocrites, aren't they? Because
yeah,
they cry, stop the boats for the women and children,
yeah.
yet they're the biggest abusers of women and
Well,
children.
well me and Nova, we've often called this out. We often have this we've been having this sort of conversation for years. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's usually, someone will call out Muslim grooming gangs or something like that. But there's a lot of evidence that suggests that in that whole patriotic scene, there is a lot of madness. And not only that, some of the comments that I've read, like I said, and inboxes I've seen people send as well, things I don't want to repeat on here. So
they can go to my profile, because some of them, at one point I went through a phase of naming and like sharing some of the DMs on my Instagram. So if people are interested, you can scroll right back on my grid, they'll be there. I've just given up naming and shaming now. I've got other things to add. I don't want to give them air, because I just think that they're like a fungus, like trying to destroy humanity and Mother Earth, like a toxic fungus that we need to.
Well, how much of all these comments and all this like views do you think has got to do with the amount of drugs and alcohol people are consuming in the UK at the moment? Because from what I've experienced, I know a lot of people that are drug users and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, they're not the most extreme, but I've noticed a lot of them swaying towards that side anyway. So how much of it do you think is how much do you think drugs and alcohol plays a part in all of this, really?
I think with all of this, we have to go, why is alcohol legal and drugs illegal? That in itself is a racist policy, isn't it? It's a white supremacist policy. The fact that we have this distinguishment, why are people encouraged to drink? So that we don't unify as working class people and start a revolution on our holiday days, the state sanctioned days where we're allowed to be with our family. This is all a mechanism of colonialism to keep us divided and oppressed. And like I personally don't think that any drug should be illegal. I think that it's all a whole heap of nonsense. And actually, like whilst we've got this ridiculous war on drugs, who's profiting from this ridiculous war on drugs? Because they're still getting in, like you say, loads of people are taking drugs. They're getting in by the shipping container, aren't they? They're not coming in small quantities to this little island nation that they want to moan about stopping the boats. Why are they not moaning about stopping those boats when drugs cause far more harm to our communities than a handful of vulnerable people coming from conflicts that this government have caused, or our corrupt businesses have caused, destabilizing their nation.
Drugs keep them subdued against the government. So this is the thing. And so obviously going against migrants is an easy target. You know what I mean? Because even if they wanted to go against my community, it wouldn't be an easy target, and they know it. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, the easiest, and even if to go against the like second, third Pakistani community in the UK,
although they are, aren't they?
They will try. At the end of the day, do you know what it is? What people have to understand as well. Most, I can't speak for everyone, but most minorities that I've seen, Black and Asians, are just getting on with their life. They're not really that bothered. They're not really that bothered if they don't want you to bother them, but at the same time, they're not sitting there scared of you if you come for them. They're not sitting there worried.
I do get a lot of women in my DMs on TikTok, Asian women, that thank me for speaking up. And one lady, she regularly calls me. She lives in like voice notes me on TikTok, little notes, to thank me, because she says that it's so racist in the hospital. She's an NHS worker, and at the end of her shift, she likes to watch my videos to have hope that there are some nice white people about.
Fair enough. What I will say, actually, because I said that a lot of Asian and Black people aren't worried about racism, but I might just be talking about the men. I've noticed a lot of women being targeted. I've witnessed it. I seen some Asian aunties getting targeted in Oxford a few years back. You know what I mean? And the guy
Yeah, there's
started,
been some awful sexual assaults as well, haven't there,
Mhm.
with
Yeah,
Asian
this guy
women?
started, oh, get shouting at these are like old Asian ladies shouting at them, speak English and all this and that. And obviously didn't know I was there. I just stuck it on him straight away. He's instantly claimed victimhood, starts going, I'm disabled. You wouldn't hit a disabled man, would you? Do you know what I mean? And then he legged it. But I can imagine these things happen quite often when I'm not around. You know what I mean? Usually when I'm around, people know to behave themselves. You know what I mean? They can't miss me. I always got 2 dogs with me as well. So people know to behave themselves. But even still, there's some people who are just, they don't give a shit.
That's the problem. They're getting more brazen, I
Yeah,
think.
they are.
I
They are.
think they get more and more emboldened
Mm.
um, with the what they call the silent majority, which is supposedly there's all these people that are like me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
look like me, that are currently silent.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're anti-racist, but they're not speaking up
Well,
yet.
I don't see, this is the thing now. I look at the people that are indifferent. I look at the people that are indifferent. They're on the side with the oppressor.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, the minute you're indifferent, you side with the oppressor. So no one is even interested in what you have to say. Basically, the only person concerned is the victim, innit?
Mm.
People that are just going to stand around idly and do nothing and say nothing, they're just as bad. Because if I was going to stand around, if there was someone I didn't like and I saw them getting beaten up on the street, I would just stand around and do nothing. Do you know what I mean? And this is exactly what people do. So if they see somebody being, abused, harassed, beaten up, they do nothing. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? And they will look for justification of why that person, you know what I mean? Oh, he probably nicked something. He probably did this. They'll
But
look
it's
for justification for themselves so they don't have to act on it.
It's
So
the
yeah.
individualization of everything, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We've had this again, it's systematic. It's been since the 80s, this whole idea that we're just here to serve our own individual needs. We're not here as communities. As time's gone on since the 80s, they've got rid of, dismantled trade unions or weakened trade unions, got rid of all our community spaces,
100%.
youth clubs, everything that had us as a collective, as social creatures that
Yeah,
need to be around other humans. We've
yeah,
been
yeah, yeah.
isolated and individualized, and now it's all me, me, me.
Of course. They've made it so that it's almost impossible to even work
And
with other people.
do you know what's really worrying? Something that I heard the other day from some people in America, which I hope it's not happening over here, but churches in America are teaching that empathy is a sin, and a weakness, which is I find very concerning. I
Mm.
don't. How can you consider empathy a weakness and a sin and be a church?
But what kind of churches are these though? Are
These
these
are the Zionist Christian
are these
churches.
is these like the American evangelical churches? Yeah,
Yeah.
well, these churches here, if you check out the kind of if you check out like the kind of people who started those churches up or who are big in those churches, people like Morris Sorello, these are people who are directly in there with Trump. Do you see what I'm saying? These are the
Mm.
people who are either, I don't know, he's in there with them. That's his past or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's no surprise when you look at, obviously not to diss Christianity, because I can get into Christianity all day long. But when you
I have a
look into
problem
this,
with
when you look
manualized
into when you
religion.
look into Christianity, it is a problematic religion anyway. So it is problematic. And a lot of people, like I come from a Christian family, everyone's Christian in the family, and their mind is, because of how they've been taught it, their mind has already been colonized. So that was step one, is basically like changing your belief system. Yeah, so that's it. So once they done that, they changed the power dynamics for how black people look at themselves, how other people look at black people. So this is the thing, but it's one of them things that's embedded into like the culture as well. So a lot of black people are Christians, but if you want to be a Christian, you need to like pick out the parts that was put there by someone else. You know what I mean? You need to pick out the parts that was put there by the slave master. I don't mean the parts of the Bible. I just mean the programming that was put there by the slave master. It wasn't the words are the same in it, but it's the programming that's they've got you, the imagery and what you think. Do you know what I mean? And this is why obviously it's a Zionist backed thing. You know what I mean? Because the whole history of the world needs to be altered for you to believe what these people are saying. Do you see what I'm saying? And if you ain't bothering to go and do your research, then you're really, this is what we're having. We're having a lot of arguments with people who know nothing. You know what I mean? We're not even having conversations with people who know something and can come with some
I see this
information.
consistently, because particularly the last few weeks, because I've been popping in just really to hear what's going on these different like lives on TikTok. And here, you know, you sit in like the audience and people get pulled up onto these panels, and there's so many people that get pulled up that are on the far right side, that are like parroting a script. If you ask them, or if anyone on the panel asks them to elaborate on their point or to justify why they're making that statement, there is no substance to them. They don't know. They have literally been programmed. They are parroting information that has been like fed to them, and they've got nothing underneath it.
The problem is as well, you know, you're the kind of people, you know, you're dealing with a lot of football hooligans. So you're trying to get a football hooligan, all of a sudden, now you're putting him on the spot and asking him to talk about theology and history and all of these things. All he knows is violence and beer, it's cocaine, kebabs. That's it. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of the time,
that's why I say let's just start dishing out ladders on the NHS on wet, windy, rainy days and flags.
What happened to the guy in Bristol, didn't it? It happened to that guy in Bristol.
That's what gave me the idea. I thought it would be a great way of culling them.
Yeah, it was like, mate, putting up, you know, at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is they put up the flags. No, like, as far as I know, I don't know anyone from like the minority community who's had a problem with it. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? I've been to some places where they've been up, just got on, you know, the only people
I know a village by me couldn't put up their Christmas lights because of the bloody flags.
They couldn't put up the Christmas lights.
Making the national news, yeah, because of it being a fire risk where they'd put the flags. But I'm in a local authority run by the delusional cult of reform.
So they put flags up themselves?
The delusional cult members, you know, the fake patriots and fake Christians, put up the flags.
Yeah.
And then because reform said that cult said that they weren't going to take the flags down, it then left them in a very tricky position when the parish council said, we can't put up Christmas lights because it's...
So they cancelled Christmas for themselves. So it wasn't even
and it did make national news how the delusional state that we're in with this situation. So they're crying about save Christmas and save all this nonsense, save the capitalist festival of greed, gluttony and materialism. It's not really even a Christian, it's just a nonsense, isn't it, Christmas? And then they're cancelling it for themselves. Muppets. Absolute Muppets.
Yeah, do you think it's just a lot of it is just down to we have a suppressed population? Like, we're living in a country of just suppressed people. So people have been suppressed creatively. And
yes, definitely they're not. And again, that's intentional. With the school system have done that. What they, if school actually cared about children's well-being, it would all be all play-based, because we know that children learn better when they're having fun and they're playing, and they have better outcomes. So why is the whole of the education system not based around young people learning while they're having fun? Instead, we're torturing them.
Do you think that like nurseries and preschools should be taught about this in greater detail? Like, especially now that a lot of the kids going into these nurseries are from like minority backgrounds. Do you think they need to be taught this stuff? Because I'm not going to lie, when I was in nursery, but when I was in infant school, I was already getting racism off the teachers. Do you know what I mean? And I was already getting stitched up for things. Yeah. So do you think that is something, because obviously there might be kids that it's happening to now. So do you think...
I bet there definitely are kids. There's parents that send me messages. There's a parent that I know that got beat up by white women outside her school and has to drop her children off before school and after school because the school are protecting the white women.
What area is this in?
That's in Hackney.
In Hackney?
In Hackney.
They're playing, you know what, I'm not going to lie, you know what, they're playing games in Hackney. Hackney is, you know what it is? I
Gentrification.
lived in London for a while, but London lately, since 2020, has been playing games. It has been playing games, and that's not no disrespect, because there's a lot of gangs in London, yeah, that are doing what they're doing. But the thing is, I heard about a guy in Brixton screaming and shouting about niggers in Brixton, and my friend, I said, what happened to him? I was like, what happened? And he was like, nothing. And I was like, see, this is what I'm saying. Stuff like that makes areas look soft, like really soft. Like obviously, like my children live in Hackney, right? That could never. I'm not to say I'm nothing. I'm not no fucking gangster or anything like that. I'm just a regular person. Yeah. But that could never happen with my children. It could never happen. I'll be sitting in prison. That's it. That will be it.
Well, you know, I've even attended a
Oh,
meeting
that's
with
mad.
the school with like a community event on with the lady, so that because
Yeah.
she wanted me to be there to witness, and they just shut her down every time she
Yeah.
tries to speak. They asked
Whoa.
in that meeting, that like online thing, they
Yeah.
asked her to deal with them offline. So it
Mm.
looked to everyone in that meeting that they were going to liaise with her,
But
and
they
then
won't.
they haven't.
Mm.
Um, so it's
That's crazy.
yeah, and I when she first contacted me, I to be honest I was quite shocked because I've known you know I grew up in Kent, but I lived in London for 12 years, and Hackney was always an area. I wrote their youth inclusion stuff in the like early 2000s. I did a lot
Hmm.
of youth participation work for the council,
Yeah.
and I had quite a respect for them as like a borough for doing equity and inclusion well. But to
Mm.
then hear that the head teacher
Mm-mm.
witnessed this lady being beaten up and then took the side of the white mothers and has done nothing, and even the staff from global majority backgrounds have
Mm-mm.
then taken the side of the head teacher
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than liaising with the mother.
So, do you think this is because I found this as well? Like even the other day, I got into a situation. Someone called me a racist name, so I had to do what I had to do to him inside of a bank. Right now, all the staff, even though this guy is, you know, you can see he's visibly drunk and on whatever, they've naturally took his side. You understand? So this is one thing I've always found. So this is why I am the way I am. Like I'm I'm like walking kamikaze, because I'm like, when it comes down to it, I always think, like, even if I'm with my friend and it kicks off and the
You're always going to
person's
have
of
to
the same
defend
race as
yourself,
him,
aren't you?
they might both turn up and team up against me. That's how I have to. That's how I have to survive. So do you think this is something that is like programmed, like instilled over like many generations? Like I don't know, maybe for a survival thing, or like how deep is this sort of mindset? Because I've seen it in many different situations.
Well, we've got generations of like in British Victorian society, if you look at how children were raised in those, children were seen and not heard. So there's that
Mm,
psychological abuse and the need to dominate and control. So there's this generational need to dominate and control. We've also got to remember that in this country, up until 1991, women could be raped in marriage. So
mm,
there's always been this
mm,
need for domination and control.
mm,
And coupled with we've had decades of essentially Nazi parenting strategies thrust upon particularly white working class families. Any family that came into contact with a service that wanted to, assistance from that service would have been encouraged to use parenting strategies developed by the Nazis that actually disconnect the individual from their soul and their humanity and make them
yeah,
more compliant to authority.
yeah, yeah, of course.
So that's why I refer to them as emotionally constipated. There's a lot, we can break the cycle, but we have to be conscious and intentional about breaking the cycle and being accountable and doing the internal work. And I think, I'm doing a radio show on Thursday about this with a guy that is like helps men get out of the man box.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm going to be intrigued to know how he does it, how he gets them out of the man box. Because I've sat in meetings with people where I've heard of men. I think it was 750,000 men in a chat room talking about white men from around the world, global chat room, talking about how women needed to be genocided because all the problems in the world stem from women, and how robots need to be made to turn their seed into a baby so that their genes don't die out when they've genocided all the women. So there's a lot of toxic, very
Yeah, this,
toxic stuff being pumped
yeah,
into the males of the population that have created this overinflation of ego, and then they are filling their brains with fear, hate, resentment, jealousy.
yeah. But it goes to show there's a lot of messed up men living on the planet,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is, like you said, you can get 750,000 of them all in one place, and there's not no one there checking anybody. It's just, worse and worse. And it's like some of the comments that I've seen and even on some of your posts, it's like it's like where these people must congregate with other like-minded people somewhere. So this is what I've seen as a big problem, because a lot of the time people say, oh, we've got refugees and this, that, and the other. But I think sometimes the nationalist views, it's a clue to like some deeper, darker problems where you've got people, like incel type people that hate. I saw this. I spoke to this guy online. I don't know how I ended up communicating with him, and he was just so angry towards women. And then he starts getting angry towards me, going, "It's all right for you. You're tall. You're good looking." And I was like, "Mate, yeah, what the fuck are you going on about? Like, literally, like you know what I mean? I said, it's got nothing to. I said, at the end of the day, mate, yeah, the reason why you can't get a woman is because your mental health. That's why you can't get a woman. Do you know what I mean? Literally, if you're carrying on like that, and I don't even know you, imagine what you're like when you go on a date with a woman. Do you know what I mean? And it's like almost like the entitlement, and because they're not getting what they want. Do you know what I mean? But that's like a development problem as well. This person
Yes,
hasn't.
entitlement is the main issue that they white men are the most, entitled. They're grown up. Oh, darling, everything's excused. That any mistake they make, they don't learn from a mistake. They get coddled, and that's
Yeah,
what we've got to stop doing. That's what's emboldened these pricks, is the coddling, is the, oh, darling, oh, excuse it. Let a woman hold their emotions. Fuck all that shit. Sorry, I'm getting swearing, but that's the problem. That is the
yeah.
problem. They've been wrapped in cotton wool far too long, and they think hurt feelings is the same as oppression. They've got no
Mm,
idea.
mm, mm, mm,
I actually, on a train, oh my, this will make you laugh, right? I'm on a train going up to London to do my radio show. It was last month. And I'm sending voice notes to various different people, like arranging stuff and planning bits and pieces. And whilst sending someone a voice note, I was talking about the brain rot of racism, how racism to me is like a fungal infliction of the brain. It's like athlete's foot. If you leave it, it's going to be really itchy and annoying, and you're going to be a nasty person. But if you do something about it, you can deal with it. You can unlearn racism. You can recover some brain cells. And so I'm having this, and this bloke diagonally in front of me, he obviously found it a really uncomfortable conversation because he stuck, this is a grown man in a suit, right? Put his briefcase on his lap, stuck his fingers in his ears, and started rocking backwards and forwards over his briefcase.
Yeah,
Like he was
he's
going to
mental health.
burst in.
That's called catatonic schizophrenia. That's basically what he's suffering from. He's probably working in the city. He's probably working some high pressure job. Yeah, he's actually suffering from mental health. So the fact that he's rocking, that's like catatonic. That's what catatonic schizophrenics do, and
Oh,
it's sent him mad. So obviously he can't take anymore. He can't take it anymore. Do you know what I mean? Any
what
more?
I'm saying on the voice note.
Yeah, any more anything. He can't. All he can do, he can get to work, do what he's got to do, get home, pass out. You know what I mean? He's stuck in that loop. There's no hope for a lot of people like that, because especially in London, some people are just too busy. They don't care. They're beyond caring. Do you know what I mean? They've got to make their money, got to make their fucking 4 or 5 grand a week rent. They got to do their 60 hours a week. You know what I mean? And that's their life, innit? Sniff cocaine, go to the brothel. You know what I mean? That's literally how it is. Literally, that's one reason why I wanted to get away from London, because it's a very seedy place. Yeah, when you do make money and you are rich and you live in a high pressure life, you know, it's a very seedy place. It's all drugs, prostitutes, strip club. It's all, you know what I mean? People staying up, you know what I mean? So people in London, I know, like, people always say I diss Londoners in it, yeah, but I'm not dissing Londoners. I'm trying to show them that where they are is not the best place. Like, it might be good for some things, but it's not the best place for your mental well-being. Do you know what I mean? And it's so mad. It's like the fact that people are being racially abused in Hackney. It's like, well, what is actually going on? The whole point of Hackney was that you can't go in there calling anyone anything. Do you know what I mean? That was the whole point of all these areas. All these areas like Brixton, Hackney, Harlesden, they're strongholds. You know what I mean? Like back in the 70s and the 80s, you know, these were strongholds. Like, so obviously, I don't know what's going on in London now. I think it's got to the point where people are just losing it. You know what I mean? And it's like, even if the right and wrong, it's in front of people's faces, but a lot of the time, do you know what I mean? They still can't see it. So, yeah, I think the best thing for people to do is get out of London. And you know what it is? A lot of people say to me, what's it like racism and this and that and the other? And I'm not going to sit there and lie to people and say, oh, there's no racism. But then I'm not going to say that about London either. I've seen loads of racism when I was in London, loads of it. And sometimes what was worst about London is some of the racists, they were proper, like, you know what I mean? They're proper Londoners, born and raised. They're not scared as well. So there's some fucking dangerous racists down there. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I just think, like, it is a bit hard to change people, especially grown adults, especially grown men. It's hard to change their mind. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, you just got to I would say keep your wits about you. You know what I mean? Don't let your guard down. Do you know what I mean?
I definitely
do not get Stephen Lawrence out here. Do you know what I mean? Because look what the thing is, yeah. I've always known that. I've always known since young, I can't get Stephen Lawrence because I ain't got parents that are gonna. Well, I don't know, innit? But I like to think my parents ain't here to accept no award from the government in exchange for my life. Do you know what I mean? I certainly wouldn't be doing it for my kids. You know what I mean? So I just say to people, innit, like, don't, you know what I mean? Always be aware there is people out there that are like that guy that drove into the mosque in Finsbury Park. The geezer drove from Wales. He drove all the way from Wales. Imagine sitting in a car for like 5 hours. You didn't even like talk yourself out of it. You got all the way. You knew where you were going. He could have gone to a mosque in Cardiff. He went all the way to Finsbury Park to drive into. Do you know what I mean? So this, you know, you have got these kind of people out there, and even the people that have got moderate right views, as you could say, that still opens the door to these more extreme sort of. Yeah, man. What was I going to say? I was going to ask, why do you think, yeah, when these conversations about racism happen, or like when you talk about racism online, why do you think people like, and this is people that claim they're not racist, why do you think they want to shut the conversation down?
Because it hurts their feelings. It's their conditioned discomfort feelings. It's yeah, I think her name is Robin D'Angelo. I think she's names it as this the name white fragility. But even to me now, the further I go down my unlearning route, that still feels like we're coddling, you know, we're excusing, oh, white people, we can't cope with having hurt feelings. So we've had to call it white fragility to sugarcoat the fact that, you know, we're conditioned by society to go, oh, deny, dismiss, deflect. What about? You know, that's the pattern. That is the pattern that we are conditioned, which is why I have my radio show called Uncomfortable Conversations. And I do a caveat at the start of the show. And I say, you know, without discomfort, you're not going to grow. So expect to get uncomfortable during this radio show. Like we have to, you don't go to the gym and not expect any discomfort. So, you know, we can't grow and unlearn the racism of society if we're not prepared to get uncomfortable with whether that's Britain's history and understanding cause and effect and how empires rebranded, it never ended. And or whether it's, whether it's dealing with accepting that racism is not about our feelings, it's about systems of power. It's prejudice plus power is what racism is. And they will say, oh, but there's a Turkish guy at my kebab shop, he don't like me very much. Well, that's not racism, that's him not liking you because he doesn't have the power to oppress you,
Of
whereas
course.
whiteness has created a structure of oppression.
What I want to know, okay, so when white people say that because if I say I'm being racially so if I say I'm being racially discriminated against, someone could say who's racially discriminating against you. I can say by this person, that person, that this, So when white people say they're being racially discriminated against, because like you said, it is a system of oppression. So who is above? Who is? That's what I've been trying to find out. Who is above these white people? So is there another race above white people that's suppressing
Well, some
them?
of these delusional fools believe that but I get multiple inbox of messages about this. So and I can't quite get, because they're all a bit thick, you can't kind of get to the bottom, but some of them refer to them as the Illuminati, the Jews, but I'm trying to get to the bottom as to whether they're Zionists or whether they're actual real Jews, because you can never get, and none of these people can string a sentence together.
They're still not. So basically they're saying the Illuminati.
Yeah, or the global elite are letting all the Muslims in. The global elite are the people. I get a lot of them.
Right. So okay, for argument's sake, yeah, they're saying Jewish people. Yeah. So that's what they're saying. The Jewish people, yeah. But the Jewish people in question are white.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what way you look at it. I don't care what anybody says. I don't want anyone to get anybody who tries to come on my comments is just getting blocked straight away. So anyone who tries to educate me, I'm not here to dialogue with these people. I'm here to state the facts. Yeah. Jewish people, like, obviously I'm not saying everybody in Israel is white. Yeah. But I'm talking the Jewish people you have in question. I don't think you mean some Ethiopian Jews. You know what I mean? I don't think that, I don't think you mean a group of Moroccan Jews either. Yeah. So let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100, because obviously I know what these people are getting at. But what I want to know, I could say that argument if I wanted. I could say, yeah, you know what I mean? And I could say, look, white people are oppressing me. You see, you know what I mean? But I want to know, like, seriously, can we really say that? Can we really do that? That's a very divisive way of looking at things. There's plenty, because I know I've got Jewish friends, right, who are, you would not be able to tell the difference. They're white people.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
Jewish people.
And that's the point, that Diane Abbott made before I think she got suspended, wasn't it? Is that, like, you can't hide your skin color. So anyone that is from a global majority background, that they're from a global majority background because you see their skin color. They can't hide their skin color, so experience a different type of racism to people that may be white passing but have to disclose their protected characteristic.
Yeah, which is, of course. But I think a lot of the time, a lot of this stuff has gone mad. Like, to think, it would be easier for them to just say there's a group of people. Don't even specify their religion or anything like that, because you don't know who they are. You've said.
Well, that's the other. That is the one that I get quite a lot. The global elites. You're siding with the global elites.
Yeah, it's better to say the global elites, because we don't know. They could be. If we don't know who they are, they could be anybody. And it's just better to say they're just trying to control everybody or trying to oppress everybody.
Well, no, the global elites are
rather than saying they're singling out white people, because the rest of the world is having what it's having as well. But to sit there and think that in England, don't get me wrong, I think England's falling to pieces. I think England is crumbling as a country.
But that's not necessarily the global elites, is it? That's 14 years of austerity under the Tories, destroying this country and not investing in it. And before that, neoliberal capitalism, just since the 80s, the selling off of council houses, underinvestment in the NHS, the public-private partnership with the NHS, which sees us paying billions for hospitals that, you know, were built years ago, and in interest, you know, all of the houses that are sitting empty. There's more bloody empty homes in this country than there are homeless people, but they keep them empty to inflate house prices and rents. And it's not the
it's
I
basically
just want people to think critically.
They can't anymore. It's got to it's beyond the point where they can even, a lot of them can no longer think. They're too close to their death. You know what I mean? They're too close to the end. You know what I mean? It will take too much for them to make that change. For a lot of them, it will require so much energy. It will probably finish them off. So a lot of them, we want them to critically think, but they can't, because they spent their whole life boozed up, watching the football. They've just spent their whole life on a low level. It's very hard, you know. It's going to be. It doesn't mean they can't. It just means it's going to be very hard for them. They're going to have to change their entire lifestyle. They're going to have to change their friends they hang out with. They might even have to change job. You know, they're going to have to get a whole new life, get a whole new perspective on life.
Well, I actually think anyone that's a racist should be sacked from their job. I think we should ostracize people to such an extent that if they demonstrate any racism, that they should be unemployable. I think it's a bit like, for them to go on becoming an anti-racist, it's a bit like starting the 12 steps in a recovery. You've got to be at rock bottom. And I really believe that as a society, we need to, you know, make PDFs and racism the most heinous of personality types. And, you know, they should be, maybe the Isle of Sheppey, we could fence them all in from
the only thing is, you see, with racism, though, with racist, a lot of them are the result of marginalization in the first place. So a lot of them are in situations where they lost a job, they can't find a job. Do you think that will? So if it was brought, well, there is kind of laws anyway that are brought in to, you know, but
well, we have this completely incoherent society, though, don't we? Because we have the biggest criminal gang in this country. We pay for with our council tax to, you know, to arrest protesters and grandmas holding up bits of cardboard. Like, our systems are incoherent. We've got the Equalities Act 2010, which sits on the shelves in most businesses or government departments like a dirty old toilet roll collecting dust. It's not ever been implemented, has it? And none of this stuff actually gets implemented because humanity make up the systems, and we can see it's not being implemented by the fact that you know, there's just no common sense in society anymore. Like, there's no people that can string a sentence together or think beyond being told their programmed answer.
Well, yeah, because what I find as well, especially in the political side of things. So, for instance, on the left side, we have obviously issues with Palestine, racism, stuff like that are being raised. Yeah, obviously, from the perspective of the left, the government is pro. I don't know. Obviously, it's capitalist government, but white supremacist government. However, on the right side, they're saying, okay, well, we're under Labour, so we're in a socialist government, and it's run for the benefit of Muslims. And there's a lot of talk in the UK about an Islamic. I've seen it. I've got people on my Facebook talking about an Islamic takeover. I've even seen guys talk about, like, let's get ready for. They're getting riled up. These guys. Do you see why I can't be in London anymore, guys? Do you understand? People are getting riled up. Yeah, to the point where.
See, these people, these are extremists, okay? Make no ifs, buts, or maybes about it. They have been radicalized. They are extremists, and they are actually suffering significant cognitive dissonance, because the thing that they fear the most is a religious war, which is they are training for. They are enabling to happen because they have allowed themselves to be brainwashed and are now training for, or preparing for, some kind of Islamic war, which they are actually the ones instigating.
Well, I've only heard them talking about it. I've not seen any post from Muslims saying, guys, prepare.
Yeah, you know, exactly, because it's all nonsense. It's delusion.
I've only seen it from, you know, so I was gonna say that, you know, that for me, if it was like a Muslim guy online talking like that, he would definitely be on some sort of watch list. Do you know what I mean? They'll definitely take note of him. Okay, we better keep an eye on him.
Although they are now currently 25% of MI5's caseload is far right extremists at the moment. They're the biggest
I can believe that. I can believe that. You know, I can believe it, because you are getting, like, I've spoke to people who have been getting so worked up and worried, and have tried to convince me there's places in London where there's Sharia law. I was like, where's Sharia? Someone tried to tell me Whitechapel. I said, mate, I've been in fucking, when I was in London, I was in fucking Whitechapel all the time. I was in Whitechapel all the time. Like, what the fuck are they talking about? There was never a week went past didn't go to Whitechapel at least twice. Yeah. So what are these people talking about? The only problems I got in Whitechapel were not from the Bengali community.
Exactly.
It was from everybody but the Bengali community in Whitechapel. Yeah. So what are people talking about? It's a Sharia law area, mate. I used to. I'm not obviously. I don't want to promote this yet, but I used to walk around that area, twisted out of my face, staggering through the estates where all the. Do you see what I'm saying? So what are these people talking about? It's a Sharia law area. Yeah. These are lies. People need to stop with these lies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, I did a video about what was it about? Oh, because years ago I did a project with an organization called IERA, the Islamic Research and Education Academy, where I lived as a Muslim woman for a week, and I wore a hijab, and I was traveling between Kent and London, and it was a very interesting experience for me. But so a few months ago, I did a video on TikTok mentioning it, and I got, the typical, before I added the filters to my comments on TikTok, and got these women, how dare the men oppress the women and make them wear a hijab. And the whole point of my video had been like I'd chosen to do this and wear the hijab. So I did another video saying, from my experience and all the Muslim women I know, they choose. It's it's an indication of how much they love Allah. And to be quite honest, in this country, with the way that they get treated, Muslim women who choose to wear the hijab or any kind of religious clothing, they get treated so badly. I think they're really brave. And I ended up with a lot of support from Muslim women for putting that out. They still, every now and again, it still obviously gets reshared.
The thing with the far right, they're the first to say, they're the first to bring up men harassing women on the streets, like migrant men sexually harassing women on the
it's
streets.
all a confession of their own vile nature.
Yeah, so by their own admission of what's going on in their country, they should allow women to cover themselves up. So, do you understand? So this is another thing. You can never win with these sort of people. But what I've realized it is, in England, before we had like racial division and stuff, it was always class division. And the ruling class, they're very smart, because they're not going to be ever outside saying any of this stuff. In fact, they might even be there with the, like, they might even be there fighting racism, knowing full well that this person, because what they're doing, remember, people have to understand in the UK, because a lot of people are too young to realize what things were like. When I was growing up on estates back in the day, there was black people, there was white people. So the white people that lived on the estates, they were just as thrown to the wayside as, you see what I'm saying? So there was enough money to have a certain number of rich white people in the UK, but the rest of them, remember, these are the same people who used to work in the workhouses and shit. They've never had no real value to the country. So the people that run the country, they've always been disposable. But what they've done to make sure these people do not compete with them and work their way up into their class is they feed them all this madness, and they let these people live their life worrying about all this stuff. Anger, do you know what I mean? Bitter, fucking in a mobility scooter, fucking with a British flag going up. And you see them in Devon. They have their far right marches, you know what I mean? And sometimes they go past me in Devon. And it's just, you look at it and you think, like, I feel sorry. I feel like I want to join them because I feel sorry for them. I'm like, fucking hell. Like, look how bad, like, what is going on here? These people are actually fucked. Before they even got into a protest or anything, you just look at it and there's like a lot of these
Well,
people are.
I think a lot of them years ago, I think it was early 2000s, there was an additional class, wasn't there, created, I think, and it was called
They,
the underclass by
oh,
Charles. I think Charles Murray was the academic. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure.
mm,
And he said that it was basically the people that were, living in social housing on, in receipt of benefits. Although I hate the term benefits because it makes people, language is important, and benefits makes it seems like there is some benefit to receiving it. It's like a survival payment, isn't
yeah,
it,
yeah,
really,
yeah,
for
yeah.
disabled people these days, or anyone that can't work. It's not actually there's no benefit. You're tortured by DWP if you receive any of these survival payments, but they
Of
use
course.
language to make you feel grateful.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
again, that's another colonial technique, isn't it? I can't remember where I was going. Oh, the class thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So a lot of it, and what's happened as well, if they have made an underclass, that is now all the people that are living on the streets. So now you've got a load of people that are out on the streets in the UK, way more than you had back in even in the
Yeah,
90s
and
and
that
stuff like
again,
that.
it's all. This is why we really somehow need to make it, well, not make, but encourage people to come together, because it's only going to get worse. And the problem is the rot at the top. It's not, we need to unite. Anyone that sells their labor for money is working class, and this is what too many of the upper class or the middle class, these fake additional classes that have been added in to, like you say, because the top class, the rot at the top, the billionaire, the what they're calling the Epstein class these days,
Yeah,
I've
yeah, yeah.
noticed on social media, they're pulling the strings to maintain the division. They're the Rupert Murdochs. They're the people who own the Telegraph. Lord Rothmore, or whatever his fucking name is, that owns the Daily Mail and offshore
Yeah.
accounts all his wealth. The Reach PLC that own like local newspapers like the Manchester Evening News and the KM, and I think they
Mhm.
own the Express as well. And they spread misinformation. It's all misinformation. We've got that GB Lies, that is an entertainment channel propagating, masquerading as news. It is not a news channel. It is, everything about it is just pure propaganda. It uses a fake think tank, the Centre for Migration Control. It's not to use fake stats. It's not even proper stats. Like, it's
Mm,
all
mm, mm.
pure propaganda. We have
What
to
do you,
find a way of getting through to people to unite and disrupt the rot at the top.
because because a lot of people, their definition of uniting is uniting amongst the Britishness. Do you know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
think that's not my
That's what
idea of uniting.
that's what Tommy Robinson was pushing.
Yeah, but
That's
he's
what
a
he was.
muppet. He's like the world's biggest scrounger, isn't he?
He
Like,
is, but
he's the scum of
he has
society.
he.
When he dies off,
Mm,
they're the ilk that we do not need to take evolution to take with us. The reason that they're just pathetic little man babies. They do not provide any value. One cup of menstrual blood is far more useful to humanity than the
yeah,
collective of them and their existence. We
but do you think Tommy? Do you think like Tommy Robinson? Yeah. Do you think someone like him, from his position, from where he comes from, it was easily exploitable if money was thrown in, if money was waved in his face?
Yeah, because he's got no
Instead,
soul. He's just a grifter. He just wants
mm,
money, doesn't he, to snort? Like, isn't that the whole purpose of his existence? He's just
well,
some tacky little criminal drug dealer
yeah,
person. He's not got any soul,
but
no
in,
credentials, a criminal.
there's probably a lot of people in the UK who, for good, for better or for worse, see a lot of themselves in him. Whether it be the part, you know what I mean, whether it be the hooligan element, whether it be the, you know, I'm not
Why, I want to
racist,
know
but
as a society why we're putting these twats on a pedestal. Like, why are we encouraging people to look up to these muppets? We need to delegitimize them.
do you know with Tommy, yeah? So Tommy's from Luton, and I grew up in Luton. So Tommy's a bit older than me. I don't know him, but various mutuals, you know what I mean? Not so like, I grew up in Luton. Luton's got a big Pakistani community, right? Now, the Pakistani communities have had clashes in it. Like, there's been clashes between blacks and Pakistanis. There's been clashes between whites and blacks v Pakistanis, this and that. Even I've had a few little skirmishes myself here, but at the same time, I lived quite close to the Pakistani area, so a lot of the Pakistani guys I used to hang out with. So I was pretty much all right around. Do you know what I mean? I was pretty much good in the Pakistani community in Luton, and they're good people in it. They're good people. But I remember, you know, this is when we were young. You know, we were teenagers. If there was ever a fight, they got the numbers. Do you see what I'm saying? And I've been there and I've seen them rush people. I didn't get involved, but I've seen it happen. Everyone just jumps in, obviously out of loyalty. So that's kind of what it was in Luton. There was a thing, the Pakistanis, and obviously certain people can vouch for me because we grew up together, and their older brothers as well, who was out there in the streets. Yeah, they kind of had the town on the ropes. That's what it was. They kind of had the town on the ropes, you know. And Tommy kind of comes from a generation that had kind of had enough. Do you know what I mean? They kind of, and I don't know. I heard some things about him getting violated. I don't know how true it is, by some Asian dealer down there, or whatever. So sometimes things, little
Maybe you
things,
should
can
go
set
to
people off.
therapy and then stop grifting on
Of
the
course,
internet then and
this
stop
is
snorting coke, and then he might actually heal himself.
one.
He sounds like a traumatized. And that's probably why he looks like a little baby, a little man baby when he's being interviewed by people and you see him looking like he needs to go to therapy, doesn't he? He needs to get out of the public eye.
Yeah, there is a lot of, and this is the thing though. There is a lot of people in similar situations. I see it with a lot of rap artists. Yeah, a lot of them probably needed therapy. Um, Situations have triggered them to go down. Do you see what I'm saying? So it'd be one little situation, and that has set them on a certain path where maybe if they went to therapy, they
But
would have
that
got
again
off
is
it.
that it all comes back to accountability and accountability for your life. Because as a woman, when you need therapy, you take yourself off, you book yourself therapy, you use the NHS, you recover, you grow, you do better. Men, particularly these examples, these incapable of accountable examples, why are
Mm.
they not thinking to themselves, I don't feel very well, I don't feel good, I feel terrible about
It's
myself,
not.
I hate myself, my
Yeah,
existence is awful, I'm a
it's what I
scourge on
think.
humanity, I need to book myself a GP
I,
appointment.
I think this is. I think this is where men and women differ, though. I don't think men would, you know, even if a man realistically, if he was going mad, he'd probably keep it to himself for as long as he can, and it'd probably only ever come out when he's
Because they want
completely lost
somebody
the
else to
plot.
look after them instead.
Yeah,
That's the
it's-
problem.
yeah,
They don't want to be accountable for their actions, for their
yeah,
lives. This is the problem. This is why
yeah, yeah,
accountability runs is the theme here, is
yeah,
the
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
They lack accountability.
But
That's the
how
bottom
would,
line.
so a lot of these people, because this is where it probably starts in the early, like late teen years, mid-teen years, or whatever. I think a lot of people, don't get me wrong, I agree in it. Like therapy would help a lot of people, and it would help some of the worst cases. But a lot of these people don't have the access. It's not something that they're familiar with. It's not something that their friends talk about, and their friends say, "Oh yeah, this." You know what I mean? They might know where like the STD clinic is, or they might know where somewhere. You know what I mean? Certain other things are.
Needle
But
bank.
yeah, yeah. Do you know what I mean? But realistically, it's
Although
not
both
some.
of those places do signpost to
Yeah,
NHS talking therapy
yeah,
services. You just
yeah,
have to be brave. But then isn't that
yeah,
an example of how weak they are? They can
yeah,
go to an STI clinic or they can go to a needle exchange, but they can't tell the professional
yeah, yeah,
supporting them in those
yeah,
two services
yeah, yeah.
that they need help with that. That to me is a sign of weakness, really.
But
That's true weakness. Not
also some.
caring enough about yourself to want
Yeah.
to be the best version of yourself.
But then some problems as well, and it's what I find with a lot of people that come from like a street background, is that they can go and speak to a therapist, but they don't see it as being able to solve the problems that they're dealing with there and then. So it could be like problems they're having in their area, where they might be targeted by people, so they can go to therapy. But the help that they really need is like they need help relocating
Practical help.
immediately. Do you see what I'm saying? So a lot of them, when they're in it, it's easy for them to dismiss it, and it's something that a lot of people they pick up later on. You know, sometimes in their 30s, sometimes 40s. You know what I mean? So, and most people, I think, a lot of men as well, rather than go therapy, will just find therapeutic activities. Do you know what I mean? So they'll go to the gym, or they'll, do you know what I mean? They'll have something that they have for therapy. Some of them might gamble. Some of them might, do you know what I mean? Some things might be toxic, like drinking or whatever, drugs. But a lot of,
Self-medicating.
basically, yeah. Or But yeah, I think
I'm not a big fan of men. You might have told me noticed. I don't think that. I think we need to dismantle the axes of evil, capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy, and we need intersectional matriarchal socialism. We need completely womb and moon led communities, 13 months, 28 days, and guided by the wisdom of older women who are, have lived in real like localized
mm,
communities that the women guide communication globally. I think that we've have enough hundreds of centuries of evidence that male leaders lack the capability of putting humanity and Mother Earth's needs first because
mm,
of their emotional constipation, their greed, their egos, and their need for status as well. So I just think we need to really normalize having these conversations that we've given them a go at patriarchy, capitalism, and white supremacy. These are failing systems destroying Mother Earth,
yeah,
and jog them on really.
it's
And let's
an
go back to
outdated, it's a outdated concept which doesn't fit with the times we're going into, basically. So it's
yeah,
like, as much as the times we're going into are probably might be some of the darkest times humanity's ever going to know. At the same time, there's a lot of baggage. Don't get me wrong, I'm a traditionalist person, innit? A lot of my values are traditionalist values, yeah. But then at the same time, there's some things where, like, I think, yeah, get rid of them. Do you know what I mean? Even in my culture, there's certain things where last generation they weren't doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like last generation, they didn't have their dogs in the house. You get me? I've changed that up. Do you know what I mean? So I've changed. That's for my. You know what I mean? But not, not everything. But there's some things where. Do you know what I mean? Like I think I was speaking the other day to someone on my show and was talking about like people beating their kids. Do you see what I'm saying? Obviously, it's like especially in the black community, it's like a standard thing ingrained in, you know what I mean? People get off their grandparents or their parents, yeah. But as time's gone on, it's got less and less where it's like the desire to do it. It's like, even though you got the cultural pressure, it's like you personally, I'm like, you know what? That's something I don't want to. It's up to people how they want to raise their kids, though. I'm not telling anyone how to raise their kids, because trust me, like whatever I've seen from even through my cousins and them, trust me, I've seen it. So I'm not telling anyone how to raise their kids, and I ain't saying I've seen kids get disciplined and turn out good as well. So, but at the same time, there's still that, there's still that argument for it messing them up in the long run. Do you know what I mean? So, what else was I going to say? All right, I was going to ask, do you think the average British person living in the UK is living in denial about the amount of racism that exists here?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's total denial. I think there's total denial about I think we live in a state of psychosis in this country about Britain in terms of our place in the world,
Hmm.
in terms of um there's this delusional rose-tinted glasses look at this a false narrative around empire. There's
Yeah.
this idea that empire, it's left us really high on the world stage, that we have these British values that are about humanity and democracy and ending slavery, and that we're this bastion of human rights and like we set the benchmarks, but really we're a morally deplorable nation, and we don't I think there's a lot of confusion about us being a Christian nation, which warps people's minds because we're not really a Christian nation. We were a pagan nation that the Romans brought Christianity here to, and then
Mm,
there's butchered versions, more and more butchered versions as generations have gone on of a
mm,
manualized religion. And we have to always remember when I'm talking about Christianity, I'm not talking about the real Christianity that Ethiopians still practice. I'm talking about the
mm.
bastardized version of Christianity
Yeah,
that
yeah,
has
Roman
been
Catholicism.
manualized to
Yeah,
oppress people,
of
particularly
course.
starting off with oppressing women, then oppressing global majority people around the world.
Yeah.
It is not a it is not a proper religious doctrine. It is or religious theology or whatever. It is indoctrination of a
Yeah,
population for the control by wealth hoarding parasites who,
yeah.
the rot at the top, as we now see. So I think there's a lot of confusion there. I think people, again, because with recently with social media and things, this shortening of people's attention spans and
Mm-hmm.
nobody having the ability to research or read around information that they receive, reading like the headline and not going deeper into understanding, and parroting sound bites that they think make them sound intelligent. But it's like these divs that think that calling you woke is some kind of insult, and you're like, do you actually understand the word
Yeah,
that you're
yeah,
saying? Because it's not offensive to somebody like me to call me woke when the origin of the word is being awake to the systems that are controlling us. So you're not
mm-hmm.
insulting me, you muppet. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I think and that is from my research, that's how fascism creeps in with the abuse of like the manipulation of language, the narrative control, which we see so firmly as well, don't we? The lack of press coverage of the political prisoners that the British government is literally killing at the moment in our
Yeah.
prisons by their inability to act on a hunger strike, their inability to. We've been taken over by Zionists, and I think that is also something that Zionist supremacy is more vile of a supremacy, I think, personally, than capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy all put together.
Yeah, yeah, because that is part of it. And me and Nova have had debates with people who said that they tried to separate the two. And I said, no, Zionism is a form of white supremacy.
Yeah, it's
Because
like the most vile form of
yeah,
white
because
supremacy.
it takes the religion of Judaism, which includes people from many nations, and that's why people have to be careful. A lot of people, they like to say the Jew, and that's why people get themselves cancelled because
Yeah, we've
they,
got to be specific, okay?
yeah,
Zionism is a vile
yeah,
political movement that attached itself to legitimize itself
yeah,
like a
100%.
parasite to
Hmm.
Judaism. It
Yeah,
is not
100%.
Jewish people aren't inherently Zionists.
Nah, they're
Yeah,
not.
there's
They're not.
yeah.
And yeah, and even if you like, I've even met people from Israel. A lot of people from Israel, they're not very political. They just get on with their life, especially in Tel Aviv. But obviously, when you go around like Jerusalem, that's where you got the hard. You understand? That's where you got the hardcore Orthodox. You know what I mean? Who are and don't get me wrong. Like a lot of them, it's just that's what they've been raised to believe. Like that's how
Again,
they've
they've
been
been
raised to
brainwashed,
believe.
haven't they?
Yeah,
Throughout their whole lives. And they've been taught to believe that, for example, Palestinians in this situation are brought up hating them. But actually, it's
yeah,
completely the opposite is
yeah.
true. That's why I say every accusation, whether it's from one of these flag shagging nut jobs or whether it's from a Zionist, every accusation they make is a confession of their own vile nature.
Mm.
Whether it's the flag shaggers and their protect our women and children. You look at their hard drive and you see they're the biggest threat to women
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
children. Or a Zionist that says, "Oh, the Palestinians grow up hating us." What have you taught your children? What are
yeah,
you teaching your children?
yeah. So yeah, it is. That is a crazy. I found as well with the Israel Palestine debate. That's another one where you have two sides who see the world in a totally different way, two totally different ways, and to try and get the well, I'll definitely have to say it. I mean, to try and get the pro-Zionist side to understand certain historical facts, it's just impossible. So this is why a lot of the
It's a
time
cult.
people,
It's a cult. It's a
yeah,
cult.
well, like I said, this shit goes deep. You know what I mean? Like you
Mm.
basically, when people that don't have an understanding of the situation, what it shows is that certain powers have shifted your whole understanding of what the world is and the world we live.
Mm.
That's what's happened. You've now
And
had
it's
the whole, they've told you one thing and you've completely believed it. And, you got to go in, you got to understand history of places and all sorts of things. You got to connect all the dots to see what's really going on. And it's just that a lot of people won't. So as long as a lot of people don't do their research, then you got people that have got a foothold in the media. They could tell you whatever they want. Do you know what I mean? And they can even control history for you. You know, so.
And that is what's happening. What we're seeing now with the narrative control through AI and the retraining of AI by the likes of Google, the likes of Anthropic, what's it, OpenAI have definitely received money from the Department of Defense to push out rewritten, like whitewashed history, essentially changing gradually. The AIs are going to gradually, slowly Zionize everybody by the responses that they churn out, because people have got no critical thinking skills, because people aren't reading around the source, because people are so quick to trust the first generated response from an AI. We are going to see, and that is how we are going to end up in this techno-feudalism, techno-fascist state where we're, our existence is literally to be harvested for data for these huge AI centers, and we're just going to be completely controlled. That's what it seems to be like we're heading towards, with these tech oligarchs running everything.
And do you think all this, all the stuff that's going on, do you think that's distracting people from actually what's going on? So you think, again, like I said, with especially like the white working class, this is still a demographic that when they're riled up, they still got the numbers. You know what I mean? They still got the numbers, and they can still cause some damage if they want. Yeah. So do you think?
I think, if they do cause that damage and they elect the delusional cult to run this nation with the biggest, British liar known to man, unaccountable man baby that is a known racist, and again should be on some kind of watch list by MI5 for being an extremist. Him, Garbage Nige, and his perpetual lies is going to put. We will be, we're heading. Labour are a far right party essentially now anyway. So anyone else is, apart from the Greens, is further to the right of Labour, and we're in fascism. So we're just being authoritarianism or totalitarianism by the time we get Garbage Nige and his lies.
Yeah. So now we're in such a fascist society. What does this mean for minorities, so such as people that are from a different country and people who are British but from a different ethnic background?
I think that we need community now more than ever. I think we need to be building networks of people to form those communities, whether they're communities that we rely on in digital spaces that we can share information and support each other, or whether they're also local, or it's one or the other. But we need to be networking with each other. And there's like, for example, there's people that I'm in contact with that are funding Black British women in business to help create the communities that can exist almost along parallel until everything is a real complete and utter shit show and it's shutting down. And then these communities can step in, can't they, and be there to fill the void as everything crumbles under totalitarianism. Because we know if Garbage Nice gets in, the NHS is gone. So no one, so we're going to see even these far right people are going to suffer from that, because of when they have to get health insurance, their existing conditions won't be covered, and they won't be able to afford £2,000 for one prescription when they need to get their diabetes tablets and things like that. So, but they're voting against themselves because they like a personality.
Yeah, and also, they think the thing is, they think of the immigrants as the poorest people. So they automatically think, okay, let's punish the immigrant, not realizing they're in the same category. You know what I mean? So they're so blinded by causing an inconvenience for someone else. And that's exactly what happened. Even during Brexit, all these people were like, what do you mean I can't go in and out to Spain anymore? What? These people were voting Brexit living in Spain, not realizing they were pulling the rug from under their feet, and then getting angry about it later and then blaming the government.
That's what I called them, the one remaining brain cell crew. I did a series of videos about them over the summer, because they're like their one remaining brain cell. What is it doing? It's just keeping the blood pumping around their body. They're like, what purpose do they serve us? Because and then you've got the one remaining brain cell settlers in the colony of so-called Australia, and they're crying over immigration. I don't understand that at all. They're all so far right, but they've settled. They're on First Nations, Aboriginal people's land.
Yeah.
Sovereignty was never ceded, and they're crying about immigration.
It's the same with America. It's the same with America. It's the same with South Africa. So it is a bit of a complex. It's such a complex.
It's all being funded by those bloody Zionists, isn't it? That's the problem. They're funding a lot of all this problem. It's them. They're the ones.
Yeah. Well, at the same, one thing I will say is that a lot of the right wing people I've spoken to, they also blame the Zionists as well. They blame the Zionists for bringing in immigrants. So that's what they say. And they say the Zionists are bringing in the immigrants, and the Zionists are deliberately trying to dilute their culture. I don't know.
Well, at least we're united in that. Well, maybe we just need solidarity on that one point then.
Yeah.
Because that's what solidarity means, doesn't it? It means putting aside our differences for a common unified, and we need to unite against the rot at the top. But maybe that's the line.
Some people, what it is though, I think some people are inherently deceptive and dishonest. So because of that, and they've had so many chances where they failed, it's like you have to be a bit careful of, like, even me, sometimes I have people from the right try to align themselves with me, even trying to get on this. I've even had people like putting people forward to get on this podcast, and I'm like, don't get me wrong, I can sit here and chat to anyone about whatever, but it gets to the point where I realize some people are just inherently dishonest, and that's my issue. So if someone was actually honest, and I've met a few people that were more honest than, do you know what I mean? But it didn't mean what they were saying was good. It just meant that they were being honest about it. But a lot of them, you're dealing with people that are like inherently dishonest and very poorly educated. And I'm not saying I'm educated, because I'm not educated in the sense where I've not been to university or college or anything like that. But I'm an exception. Some people you talk to and you can tell they're not educated, and you're like, what am I even doing? Like, what am I even having a conversation with this person for?
It doesn't need to be book smart though, does it? It needs to be like the school smart. It is that understanding of the world, like having conversations with people, questioning things, and and wanting to know more. And what I find, again, it goes back to that entitlement though, and I find that mediocre white men always are so entitled and arrogant that they know everything, that they don't need to learn. And I think that's one of the things that fails in this, why we've got mediocre white men running everything, running the world into the ground, is because they always think that they know everything, that they've got all the bloody answers, when actually we should be taking a leaf out of First Nations people's books and believing that we're here to learn. Yeah. And every day is a learning day, and we can learn something new. But you will never find, or very rarely will you find, a mediocre white male that is capable of going, no, actually, I want to learn.
Yeah.
I don't know everything.
I found that even though I've grown up in a multicultural part of England, I found that although everyone, regardless of what their race was, we had to learn about England and England's history. But I found that unless the people were from that country, like people weren't learning about Pakistan, they weren't learning about do you know what I mean? If you ask them a question about the Caribbean, they don't know the answer. They don't, and it's like, hold on a minute. Some of my friends, like a lot of my friends, didn't even know where I was from. Do you know what I mean? So they've known me all my life. They didn't know where I was from. I said, where am I from? Where's my parents from? I said, oh, sure, I don't know. So it's like, in a way, it's like they're used to kind of not having to pay an interest, or not needing to pay any interest into where other people are from. All the interest has been focused on the UK and the UK's history and the UK's culture, and you know what I mean. So this is what I find,
that centering of UK and centering of whiteness is what we do as white people when the topic of race and immigration comes up. We center ourselves and our feelings on a micro level, and that's the problem, because of our conditioning and because of that way of society always centering the white person. Then even on a micro interpersonal level, when somebody says, look, that was a bit racist, rather than the person hearing, I should change my behavior and not do that again, they go, oh my God, they're calling me racist, my feelings are hurt.
I find as well, when this is what I find. I find that when you call out a white person for being racist, right? They 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 translate that as you hate white people. That's what I
Yeah.
found when I called out racist people. They translate it as I hate white people, or they translate it as not all white people are racist. Like that's a giveaway. Once you say that, that's over for you. But things like this, um, it's a bit strange. Like there's a lot of, I just find a lot of it quite strange because I have dealt with a lot of like BNP people in the past and stuff, and even they weren't this bad. You know what I mean? Even they had some sort of explanation for their views. Even they acknowledged their views were wrong, some of them. But some of these people's views, it's like if you attack if you attack my right to be racist, then you're racist against white people. And if you a white person who speaks against racism, you're a race traitor.
Oh yeah, what a load of nonsense
And
that
it's
is.
just,
Oh my
and
God.
it's like I don't know what to say to these people. Like my
There's
like
one race, isn't there? The human race. The only person that they're letting down is themselves. That's my response to that, is by calling me that, they're just showing me their own
yeah,
hatred for themselves.
yeah, it's mad people feel that way. You know what I mean? It is mad but that's literally, that is the reality. I see people, I see, hear and see these comments all the time. People, it's like Nova. A lot of people call Nova, they say Nova's a racist. He's a racist against white people.
Oh, I get called that all the
And
time.
it's
I
like,
don't
yeah,
get. I think it's a nonsense. It's impossible.
it's mental.
Possible. Yeah.
It's like, it's absolute mentalness. But
But that's them demonstrating their emotional constipation, isn't it? That's what, and I like, I will say that to people, and I did say that to a man on the train as well the other day. I
yeah,
called him like, because he was like, "What you're saying on your in your phone is sounds like utter rubbish. You know, we're being eliminated. We are. We're being. There's
yeah,
a genocide
that's
coming
his
at
problem.
us."
Well, you know what it is. That's what I say to these people. That's his problem for being a little bitch. Yeah. At the end of the day, if no one can come and eliminate me and me not fight back, and this is me on my own. Yeah. So all these fucking hell. What about you and your mates at the pub? How are you going to let a load of fucking foreigners who came off a boat eliminate you? At the end of the day, if you're that much of a pussy, you're bound to get eliminated anyway. So this I'm saying to these people: if you're that much of a pussy, you're bound to. How the fuck can anyone turn up to anywhere in the UK and take over? Do you know what I mean? How could Do you know what I mean? You can't turn up anywhere. Nobody can turn up anywhere. You can't turn up to London, Manchester. You can't turn up to anywhere, and people won't come. So what are these people? Look when it's football. Look when it's football day. What happens when the hooligans come out? Yeah. So what are these people worried about? Do you know what I mean? We're
They
getting
want to be
eliminated.
victims. That's what they want. They want to be that because of their maybe because of the privilege of their existence for so long. Now they want to be victims. I don't get it. I don't get it
They,
at all. But
well,
I did call him out. I said, "Oh, you're demonstrating your emotional constipation with that comment."
yeah,
Like I wasn't gonna leave it, and there was a lady, like two people behind him, a black lady, and she laughed. She looked me in the eye and
yeah.
she laughed and she did like thumbs up.
But there's a dark side to this sort of talk, though. Yeah, because what this talk is, right? If you read through history of genocides, right? This is always the like pretext to a genocide, right? So when before genocides happen, there's always talk about the DNA. They become obsessed with their
Yeah,
DNA
it's
and the
about normalization, isn't it?
genetic material. So they start becoming obsessed with being wiped out and diluted. When you start hearing people talking about that sort of stuff, then the next stage is they start talking about, oh, we got to prepare for a race war or religious war. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying. A lot of things I'm seeing people say
Oh
is
yeah, I
meant,
had a guy send me a message one night, tell me that I was going to be on the first plane out of here, the one plane with 15 million non-white people. So I sent back, first of all, I sent back laughing emojis because I was like, you're not going to be able to find, and then the words, you're not going to be able to find one plane to fit
yeah,
15 million non-white
yeah,
people on it.
yeah.
And he was like, and then he went into this rant about me being a race traitor. So
Mm-mm-mm.
I responded back, okay, yeah, send me. I'd love to be on one of those planes. I'll just be making sure I'm laughing when they take off because I'll know as I look out the window that you've crashed the economy and you have no functioning services. But you enjoy a nation that you've destroyed willfully.
Mm.
And then I blocked him
A lot,
once.
a lot of these people, they're the race traitors because you see what it is. I go all around the UK. I see white English people on drugs on the street, yeah. I don't see no one fucking helping them up. I don't see no one taking them in. Yeah, if it's a Chinese man, I see him fucking dragging his people off the street, or an Indian man, he's fucking dragging his people off the streets. Yeah, I don't see no. Do you get me? I see a few old ladies giving some change in that, but I don't see none of you. So I've not seen, not like literally, I've not seen one single patriot turn up, see fucking junkie on the street, fucked up, down on his luck, and say, you know what, my brother, yeah, I can't leave you like this. Come here, let me sort you out. So end of the day, when they're talking about race traitors, fucking go and help some of your people on the fucking streets. Yeah, they're all over the UK. Any town, any city, there's plenty of homeless people. They're not getting, like you said, you're right. The state ain't helping them. Go and help these people. You know what I mean? Because people are sitting there calling people traitors like they're doing anything. Yeah, and like I'm not there to see that you're doing fuck all. Do you know what I mean? So that's all I would say to those people before you sit there and worry about someone who's fighting for fucking equality, because it might be your equality they're fighting for one day. Do you know what I mean? You might be your equality, you know.
Well, I have actually fallen because I am a human rights activist. I am not just here about,
Of course.
it's trying to tackle the elimination of racism. I think it all goes hand in hand. I think when we see racism, we see misogyny, and we see ableism,
Of
and we
course.
see the transphobia and anti-Islam
Yeah, yeah,
sentiment. All of it is part of the same package of
of course.
manufactured division by
Of course.
the axis of evil, capitalism, patriarchy, white supremacy, which is why we need unity and we need solidarity to eliminate the axis of evil, because as humanity, like, we should be looking out for each other on a human level.
Mm.
Our values should not be determined by how productive we are for capitalism.
Yeah,
That is not why we exist.
but we are. But the thing of humans, even with the lockdown, what we proved as humans, yeah, as humans, not me personally, but the human race as a whole, is that its loyalty is to the state. The loyalty, humans'
Yeah, that
loyalty
we've
is
been
not with each other.
programmed well,
Yeah,
that the
exactly. Humans.
propaganda has worked for
This
centuries,
is
for
why I step away
generations.
from people, because I know when it comes down to it, their loyalty is with the state, and it doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter if it's my. Do you know what I mean? It
Mm.
could be my best friend. You know what I mean? But when the state when the state tells my best friend to stick a knife in my back, he's doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, he'll do anything the state tells him to, and that's because people have been so dependent on the state and so dependent on the monetary financial system that that's all they care about. They're not interested in people. They're not interested. They're interested in financial gain. So as much as people could unite or should unite, they'd probably only do it for money. They'd probably only do it if there was a financial incentive somewhere rather sooner rather
I
than
get
later.
accused of that by the far right Muppets. They think I'm a paid lefty. They think lefties are paid. They're
Yeah,
so
they're
thick.
mental.
They're so
You got to
thick.
understand. Like I said, a lot of these people, yeah, like, because I was doing a lot of stuff with the anti-vaxxers. Like the anti-vaxxers jumped on what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? So I've always been doing what I've been doing. Me and a few people, and they've kind of jumped on our wave, and they brought a load of negative stuff we didn't want nothing to do with. So we've had to literally banished a lot of them, like, just stop dealing with them. Do you know what I mean? It's got to the point where we was like, we can't even be bothered anymore. We can't even be bothered to have conversations with them anymore. That's how tiring it is. And yeah, I found a lot of these people have got some very mad views, and they're just, and not only that, and I don't even like to talk about this, but, when it comes to like grape culture and this sort of stuff, like again, me and Nova, we've gone over this in various lives and posts and stuff like that. So it's got a dark undercurrent to it, to a point where, you know, I've got people that want to debate me and stuff like that, and it's like, mate, that's not even the point. You know what I mean? It's besides the point, mate. It's like, do I really want to give you lot a platform? Like you said, like, the world would be a better place without them. That's
Yeah.
how I genuinely feel. And
I don't think we should legitimize their opinions. I think,
and I
and
gen-
that's the thing we have
and
to.
yeah, sorry, go on, go say it, go on, Karen.
It's just like, well, there's a difference, isn't there, between fact and opinion? And one of the things that has happened systemically since, I think it was just before COVID, is
Yeah.
this, like, they took away fact checking, I think it was on Facebook.
Mm.
And that then there's an organization in Europe that did some research into this, and it saw that those organizations then put manipulated content out into Facebook to target like homeowners, left-leaning, anti-vaxxers, to drip feed them racist information that was like not even on the surface. You wouldn't necessarily have noticed the racism that was being drilled into you, the anti-immigrant sentiment that was being drilled into you. All of this was like subliminal stuff that's been going on for years to like radicalize essentially the like the alternative community. And one of those examples, I suppose, of my knowledge of that is through have you heard of UK Column?
Yeah.
Right. So I went to a festival, like I think it was end of last summer, to pick up a rapper called Amy True.
Not that fucking Sounds Beautiful one, was it?
I don't know what it was in.
Was it in Dorset?
No, it was in East Sussex.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. Those people have, again,
they had a UK Column tent with speeches, okay?
Mate.
None of it is scientific based. None of it is fact based. It's opinion based bullshit filling people's heads. Not, they've dismantled proper research. They've delegitimized is the word, like peer reviewed research, actual scientific research. These people are there with their opinions, dismantling actual true like evidence-based information via UK Column, spreading and trying. Then there's people that are trying to convince me that garbage knowledge is the solution to this country.
At the end of the day, all I would say with UK Column, you've got to look at them. Just got to have a look at the people, and it will just tell you everything you need to know in it. So it's just you know what I mean? Like,
well, that was why I was shocked they booked Amy to perform.
Yeah, because what it is Amy was one of the only rappers who was actually like talking about the you know what I mean, the lockdown and calling it out. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of these artists, like a lot of them wanted to book her from before. There was a few festivals going on. They were trying to book Amy, and one of the guys, I ain't gonna mention his name, but Amy called him out. Yeah, she called him out in his racism and hotted him up. Yeah, do you see what I'm saying? So that's probably why she didn't play that. Do you know what I mean? But big up to Amy True. Obviously these people are just pandering. Yeah, they're gonna act as nice as they can. I don't want to get too into it because I'll start cussing people out. I'll start cussing. I've cussed them out so much last year. I thought I'm going to start 2026 without going down that road.
Yeah, let's not legitimize them and their athletes' foot of the brain that they're
and 2024 just having to like destroy. I had to burn so many bridges. You know what I mean? I had to just go and burn all these bridges that I built that I didn't want anymore. So I'm not even going to get into. But yeah, I've do you know what it is? I've even had people from UK Column ask me to jump on their show. Do you see what I'm saying? These people beg it. You know what I mean? This is what people have to understand. When people see me around these people and they think, oh, why were you around this person? Believe me, that person begged it with me. Yeah, that person begged their way in. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they were trying to, a lot of people wanted to associate themselves from my clothing brand and stuff like that. I couldn't have it. Do you see what I'm saying? So I've had to literally let everyone know, no, this Bad Slave is something. It's got its roots in the streets of London. Yeah, we're multicultural. We don't represent. Like, to be honest, I'm not going to put out anything divisive because I have all different people buy my clothes. You understand? Black, white, all orientations, trans. Yeah. So it's not a case of like, oh, I'm doing this and this person's excluded. I'm not dealing with exclusion. So yeah, there was a band that was playing. They were probably playing at the festival that you went to. One of the guys, the band got himself banned from every pub in Brighton. Yeah, they got himself banned from every pub in Brighton for like homophobic lyrics, right? Me and Nova, I think it was, we even ended up chatting to the guy, and we kind of got him. He was only a young guy, And he was like this. And I said, mate, you know what you're doing? Yeah. You're ruining your life. He said, you're ruining your life. What are you talking about? You're fucking 20 years old trying to tell me, a man in his 40s, about your fucking music career. Yeah. And you've already got cancelled in your hometown. And I'm trying to give you some fucking advice. Don't listen to these. I said, don't listen to these fucking washed up, middle-aged, bitter people who are going to tell you to go and do this when you're too young. Your brain ain't even developed yet. Yeah. And you're going to go off and happily get yourself cancelled and think it's something to be proud of. And he kind of, I don't know if he, you know, he still carried on playing at these festivals and stuff like that. But this is the kind of, you know, this is the kind, and there's some rappers in there. That's what I'm saying. There's some rappers.
Yeah, there's definitely some rappers.
Even I wouldn't say they were part of People's Army, but there was some rappers that had association to People's Army that are still in that scene right now. So this is what I'm talking about. So when I'm hearing about racism coming from certain, I'm not surprised at all. At all. I don't even want to call up people's, you know, I don't want to pull up the evidence because I've called these people out before. I don't want to make myself vexed. Do you know what I mean? Because I will.
And also, I just think that let's not mention their names. Let's not legitimize their viewpoints. What they contribute is meaning, and it's hate, it's negativity. It's not worth us. And I think that's what we need. You know, I hate the term the left because I don't want to be left or right. I want to dismantle the whole damn system, abolish the monarchy, abolish the whole damn lot. And we need coherent structures, and we can only have coherence with female leadership. We can't have coherence because
get rid of the men, get the men out of their positions.
Yeah, it has to be, everything has to be female led. Men are not capable. They're not. Like, that's why, you know, Mother Earth tells us this with the fact that biologically every human starts off as female. So Mother Earth and Mother Nature are showing us that the full expression of a human is female. A lesser human, the part created human, is a male, the mutation of the female embryo. So therefore we need to realign to womb and moon led connection to Mother Earth and not keep over extracting from Mother Earth and work out ways of being that's respectful, because we are also, and you know, we are also nature. We're not separate from nature. And I think that
don't you think humans' presence is a destruction on nature though? Don't you think just humans' existence is destroying what we know as nature? And
I think it is in its current, in the current iteration, because of the axis of evil, capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy. And not only, and in addition to them, these manualized religious texts, you know, all of which, and you look globally, or, you know, Buddha's a man, all of these things, it's all patriarchy everywhere, isn't it? It's all been the domination of patriarchy, of fragile, centuries ago, fragile little men that couldn't cope with women being better able at multitasking, so they needed to oppress them wherever they were in the world.
Yeah, but I suppose it all comes down to the concept of God being a man. So
but God couldn't possibly be a man, because the full expression of human, the way that an embryo grows is always female. Every human starts off as female, therefore God can only be female.
But the life comes from the seed comes from the man. So you got to think, obviously, like,
but that's not really that useful, is it? You know, so, you know, in terms of, so it contains such small amount of the contribute, and the egg still chooses which sperm it lets in.
Of course, but that's still the spark of life. That's what that's what is understood as. So, like, the seed. Obviously, the earth. That's why it's called Mother Earth.
I don't think you'll ever convince me that men are useful. Because also, what I have learned over the last few months is that lions, when there's not a suitable male within a lion's pack, the strongest female will grow a penis and a mane,
and she'll change sex. Wow.
Yeah, and I think that is what will happen to humanity once we've got rid of all the whatless men. Women will then evolve to the ability to be able to, should we need to impregnate another one of us, we'll evolve to have a penis and deal with the dude.
But don't you think the male and female imbalance is the root to a lot of problems we have in the world? So because we have we have like feral teenagers running about from broken homes, or we
Oh,
have
but even the concept of a broken home, that's a colonial construct, isn't it?
yeah,
Monogamous relationships. There's, again, all
yeah,
of this is because of capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy. If we had matriarchal communities, it wouldn't be this wouldn't be there wouldn't be broken homes, would there? The community would be raising the children. In matriarchal communities, all the aunties were the mums and all the, like they were
but,
raising each other.
would they have mums and dads in there though? Because
Well, from
this
some of the research I've been doing, the men were sent off, weren't they? Because it was
yeah,
hunter-gatherer communities, but they were sent off. And what some of the anthropological research I was reading was like that was basically the women getting rid of them because they were so useless. And the women would forage and feed their
yeah,
children and the rest of their community for the time, the 6-7 days while the men were away. The men would come back whatless without a big beast that they hadn't killed because they were whatless, and the women would go foraging and solve the problem again, and then they'd send the men off again to go and forage again or go and kill a big beast for 6-7 days, and they'd be left in peace to raise the children. And I
yeah,
think that's the point, isn't it? We've now got mediocre men in positions of power making decisions around the world
yeah,
when they haven't got the cognitive ability to do so, and we need to
yeah.
re-establish that actual balance.
But even like in societal level, so with with for instance, for me as an example, yeah, like my daughter gets to a certain age, yeah, it starts. My daughter's good; she's not a bad girl at all. Do you know what I mean? But he gets to a certain, you get to a certain age where you can clearly see, okay, they need both. You know what I mean? They need both parents present and involved, because when kids are at that age, you need to keep tabs on them, and you need to, you know what I mean? They go off, you know what I mean? So it's like, even though, don't get me wrong, I understand men fuck the world up, but as far as like house, like, because before with traditionalist like values, especially the Christian values, a lot of it was like people were married, had families, mum, dad, kids, whatever. That's what people knew. Nowadays you have
But
sometimes you have
that's not
mum.
like that's the problem. It's not actually like humanity wouldn't naturally have those monogamous family structures. Like, and that's to me, that's why are we fighting to keep this, which is literally to aid capitalism. It's to put,
Yeah,
the idea of a monogamous was a man owning a woman and owning the children and then being able to abuse the woman as much as he wanted to.
I,
It's being property. It's not, and that was all that Christianity was created for, was to oppress
but
people. It's
I
the
think people took the idea of ownership out of context. So it's like, obviously my kids, I consider my kids, of as much as they're their own people, I still consider them my property. You know what I mean? But at the same time, not in that respect, like you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to control every aspect of your life. It's like, you're my kids to care for, in it, like in that respect. Not you're my kids to like be my slave. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of people take these sort of things out of context, where they're like, okay, because certain, especially like medieval customs, they were kind of hardcore. Do you know what I mean? The laws around marriage and stuff like that, they were hardcore. Do you know what I mean? To be quite honest, if you're going to go by biblical marriage laws, mate, if you got married and
even
you
if you
weren't,
go to British marriage laws up until 1991,
I
women
know,
could be raped in marriage. Like,
yeah,
that's my lifetime.
and that's because these are
And
probably
still
things.
now, one
These are
woman
probably
dies in
things.
this country every 3 days at the hands of a man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, mate, England is a mad place anyway. I think
It's not that. Well, we've got the biggest criminal gang in this country that we're paying for out of our council tax that is made up of these perpetual violent criminals and that protect each other and don't investigate. And they're out there, there's numerous incidences of of the criminals abusing women and not investigating each other and working in and threatening people or working for the police and stalking people and
yeah, 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 yeah. Of course, of course. Yeah, there is definitely a creep culture that needs to be addressed. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely something that needs to be addressed, and I think, it needs to be addressed, like, it needs to be addressed with force. The days of, like, people need to start getting dragged up in the streets again. Do you know what I mean? And people doing dodgy stuff. You know, they need to know that, because you could, what I've realized, yeah, England is full of, it's full of wrong uns, like
Yeah.
probably most of the world is really. And you can't even stop these people having their sick thoughts that they're having, you know what I mean? But you can make them, all you could do is make them stay in their place, to make sure that they try and make sure they don't step out of line. So
yeah, and that's why the mums have got to be empowered to raise children that have got the courage to speak up and disrupt their narrative. But the mums also have to have the confidence to challenge their partners, challenge their colleagues, challenge their bosses, challenge their family members, and keep holding them accountable so that we can create these ripples of change.
yeah,
And, ultimately, because the change has always come in this country from the wives of the male politicians, even when it comes to things like eliminating or like signing the law, but putting it into legislation, the law for ending slavery. It wasn't ever because that man had a brain. It was because his wife had been
his woman
doing the
told him.
liaising with
Yeah,
all the other wives, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
pushed him. It's always women that have pushed for better change.
Because by the time the men in the position of power, they have no empathy left. Do you know what I mean? So they're not able to make decisions based upon that. They would need a woman, anything that regards people's life or something like that.
Well, neurotypical people lack empathy anyway. So there's an argument to be had that there should never be a neurotypical person in a decision-making role
Yeah,
that requires empathy, because scientifically, neurotypicals lack empathy for strangers. So we can see this in the puppet running this country right now, and the tango toddler over in across the pond, and he's having his paddy, and the psychopath of West Asia. We can see neurotypical people should not be in leadership roles. So, we're in intersectional matriarchal socialist societies, we'd have the neurodivergent women running everything.
yeah. I see. Boy, there might be some men that disagree, but there always is.
That's all right.
I've read the comments.
Yeah.
Who have I got on the comments? I haven't read any comments. I'm sorry, people.
Oh, yeah, the comments. I need to get going in a minute.
Yeah, big up to Sasha. Unknown user. Children with both parents. Children need both parents. State benefits. Lost children are sent out into the world. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. But it's not always the case. It's not always possible. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I think as well, we got like a lot of idealistic standards we put on things. So we want, do you know what I mean? Idealistically, we want to be there with our kids, to have mum and dad there 24/7, but realistically, yeah, in this day and age, that ain't happening. Do you know what I mean? It's not happening for the majority. So
typically it's in my experience, people that are the worst perpetrators of harm to children. So think about males that have contributed so badly to the abuse of their partner and their children that they are now in prison. They tend to be the ones that cry parental alienation and still
100%.
traumatize the mother and make the mother take the child to the prison to see that violent criminal.
Yeah,
Now, in those instances, my argument
I've seen this with various people that I know who are sitting there, kicking and screaming because they haven't seen their kid, but then it turns out there's a good reason why they can't see their kid, but they're not, like you said, they don't have the accountability, so they're just seeing it like they're the victim. And and don't get me wrong, that shit does happen, but at the same time, I don't even like to talk about it, because I find a lot of these people, they jump on that bandwagon and try and say, see, it's the same with the girl that got caught setting the guy up, saying that he raped her. So she got caught out making it up. Everyone jumped on the story, and it was like, guys, you guys seem a bit too happy. You need to chill, because you're trying to use that to say every single accusation was false, and that's not the case, actually. Do you know what I mean? You would love it to be, but that's not the case. So yeah, man, it's I see all this sort of behavior. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, as a man, it's mad how much of this stuff you grow up absorbing. You understand? And then it's just around you, and then as you grow up, you're like, because as you grow up, you see certain people carrying it on, and you're thinking, hold on a minute, and then you realize it's a whole culture which we don't want to mention that goes on, and it's one of these things that it gets worse. You know what I mean? People get worse with age. You know what I mean? They get worse with age. They don't sort themselves out. So.
And that's why, yeah, they can't be given oxygen. And that's why now I don't, yeah, I turn my comments off on, particularly on Facebook, because that's the worst. That's the cesspit of humanity. Because I don't use X. I've stopped using X years ago because I just.
Yeah, it's just a lot of I don't know. You can look. Some people could feel sorry for these people. They could say these people are retarded or whatever. Some people say they're ignorant, naive, stupid, idiots, whatever. But like you said, that's how I do. I don't really tend to pay these people much mind either. The only time I pay them much mind is usually if they say something to me in person. You know what I mean? I don't even like doing the whole arguing shit online. But they say something to me in person, and they always know how that ends up. Do you know what I mean? They always know how that ends up. So that's how I keep it, man. But yeah, I'm gonna probably. I think my daughter is harassing me for something, so I need to go.
That's all right. Thank you. It's been a long conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, man, definitely. It's been a wicked show.
Take care.
Yeah, and tell everyone where to find you online as well.
Oh, you can find me online on Instagram. I'm at anti_racist mums with an S because I'm trying to grow a movement.
Come on.
And on TikTok, I'm at anti_racist mum. And on Thursday, this Thursday, the 15th of January, 12 till 2, I have the Uncomfortable Conversations show on Urban Extra Radio. 12 till 2 with a dominatrix talking about some of the requests that she gets or has got from men over the years, and a guy that works to support men to get out of incel man box culture and reconnect to their soul and their humanity and become, actual fully functioning humans rather than the emotionally constipated ones. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for being on as well.